Hey, Brandon.
Hey, Sunny.
Great to see you and talk to you finally. Ever since you left that heartfelt voicemail and you did it. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Um,
Thank you for your help.
yeah,
I really mean that.
I know you went online but it's ABA, which is awesome. I really wish that was around when I went to law school.
I went to Mitchell Hamlin School of Law. When I started, it was William Mitchell, and then it switched over like right after it combined with the law school locally. So it's in St. Paul, Minnesota, and it's a nationally accredited hybrid program. So that means it's half online, half in person. So I'd go out there every 3 months and do like mock trials, oral arguments, everything I couldn't do online. But it was really demanding in the sense that because we weren't in person, I had to do essays every week, discussion boards every week. So it was an experiment. And so far, it's actually been pretty good. A lot of our people are passing the bars in their respective states because they come from all over the nation. I had people from Alaska, Florida. A girl that graduated after me, she took it and she passed her on her first try, which was great. So yeah, it was a nice experience because I have a son, a 9-year-old, and I couldn't move away. And there's no law school where I live. So it was my choice was very limited. So.
Right. That was another thing that kind of drew me to you, so to speak, is that I saw how much you loved your son. And you know, I love my daughter. Were you in the military?
I can actually re-enlist, and that's part of the reason why I wanted to go to an ABA-approved school. My goal is to get into the reserves and get into JAG.
I told you about my interest in tech, kind of like that's where I should have went, engineering, tech. I shouldn't have went into law school, but that's fine because now I figured out a way to use that knowledge I got from law school and studying for the bar and everything to do this great thing for people in an engineering kind of way, right?
It's not that I regret going to law school, but I think there could have been other better plan choices too. I don't know that it's so much. I'd like to get to a place in life where I could do family law for people for free. So I think in the sense that I look at the law as being a way to help people, and I like to do it for free, but I'm very interested in going to the tech side and be like, what can I do here to make a living? And then I'll do this for free. Like get to a place where there's that nice balance of life. And because people don't have access, one of the things about the law is people don't have access to it. And so, they don't have access to attorneys because, they're all overpriced. And I mean, at the firm I work at, it's ridiculous. I'm $225 an hour. And I'm like, who can afford that? Like realistically, if you're struggling financially, I couldn't afford myself.
If you're a single parent, right?
Yeah, exactly.
There was a really good documentary about it, and it was narrated by Dr. Drew Pinsky of Loveline, and is called Divorce Court. And it talked about this whole money-making, this horrendous thing that's going on right now in family law.
The reason I went to law school at the time, I went to a really bad divorce and custody battle over my son. And, I was blessed to have at the time a stepdad who could afford to pay for it. But quite honestly, he had to spend $200,000. His family left him money. He took his inheritance and helped me out. And I'm like, that was luck. That was a blessing. There's people, not everyone has that. Otherwise, I may have lost my son, just been gonna follow what the court says. I was able to get an attorney that's $450 an hour, and she was amazing. I love her.
Shout out to Brandon's family law attorney.
She was amazing, but not everyone can afford that, and that's where I had a problem.
Is there any other background stuff? You're such an interesting guy.
My son and I, my girlfriend, we all do jitsu. We all train, do that regularly, work out regularly. I study a lot of Stoic Philosophy the last couple of years.
How many times did it take you to pass the bar exam?
2 times. This was my second time. I took it and I passed it.
Brianna said she was like 1299 on the first one. Do you remember your score by any chance?
1369.
Cutoff for reread is 1390. Did you make reread?
My essays were like 50, 55. I think the highest score I had was a 60 on one of the essays. So it was okay. It was what it was.
You talked about the essays, and it was kind of like, now what do I do? Could you elaborate on that for the viewers?
Yeah. So, when I first started, I got my score back. It was a 1369. I saw that. And so, okay, I'm like, where did I mess up? So I started looking at my essays, and I think, I had 3 that were in the 60s and 3 in 55. So I'm like, okay, the 60s ones weren't that bad. That's great. But I'm like, the 55s, like, where do I go now? I'm like, you literally can only get the lowest score is a 40, I think, on it. Basically, at 55, he just wrote some stuff down. They're like, okay. So I'm at that point, I'm like, oh, okay, I just basically wrote enough down to get points, and that's what they did. But I was like, where do you go from here? Obviously, what I was doing wasn't the right thing, quote unquote, in terms of how they viewed it. And for myself, I started looking at my MBEs, and for civil procedure, and it was crazy. I got a 92.1 in civil procedure on the MBEs, and I'm like, didn't even expect that. But then I had, torts was a 19.3 and crim law was a 21.4. So I bombed those in the MBE. So it was, a lot of like, all right, where do I go from here? Yeah, my score wasn't super low. It's 1369, but I'm still about 80 points off. Where do I get those points at? Because I'm obviously not doing the right things. So it was challenging because I'm like, I had to use one of the major prep companies and I'm like, this wasn't for me. Like,
that was the first time.
Yeah, the first time I'm like, this isn't for me. Like doing these lectures and whatever they have you do, I'm like, this isn't helping me get to where I need to get to. I'm not understanding anything. I'm like, it's clicking, but it's not, obviously clicking.
Which was the lower, your MBE or your writing? In California, for the listeners, by the way, it's 50-50 here. So your MBEs were higher, which was surprising.
Yeah, my MBE was a 1400 and my essays were like a 30 something or along those lines. So yeah, so that was that. And I was like, okay, but now what? And then I got back to prepping. I'm like, which is actually around the time I found you. I saw the essay drill app. I'm like, okay, maybe this will help me bring my essays up. Like, what do I do now? I don't know what to do. Because I was going to start just like doing viewing outlines and trying to do more essays. And I was like, okay, well, and then I saw your essay drill app and that's how I met you.
How I came into this, I guess, bar prep thing and the essay app and everything. And I haven't really talked about it too much in other episodes because I'm trying to stay away from the whole advertising thing because I don't want to turn people off. But I think I should explain things more now because I think you see it too, Brandon, is that we've really stumbled onto something together, all of us, in the kind of key to passing, if there is one, or the very good way of passing. And so the essays, they're very limited in if it's certain things, you talk about certain things automatically. So how do you kind of get that going? And the key to doing that is see a bunch of essays in the same kind of thing and you'll see the common theme, right? And it applies to MBEs too. So that's why I did this essay app. But over the last couple of years, since I've had the app out, I first put it out in 2017. I kind of knew in my heart of heart that this was not the silver bullet or the I got this funny story. Well, I think it's funny, so I'll share it. I said golden goose or silver bullet to passing this thing, right? And I said that to someone, shall remain nameless, but I said, you're my golden goose. You're gonna do it, and then I'll be able to say, this is how you pass the thing. And she goes, could we go for like silver bullet or whatever? Because golden goose, I don't know if it has some connotation. But anyways, she was my silver bullet. You're my silver bullet, especially after Chore passed and my silver bullet. After they passed, it was kind of like, okay, this app may not make you pass, but it will definitely head yourself towards passing because it'll divert more time to your MBEs. And that's where I'm going. And I want to be clear. And I know you see it, Brandon, right?
Yeah, no, definitely.
What was your lowest point in bar preparation? This low point, were you ever close to just giving up?
I have a little boy. And so failing is setting him behind. That's what it is for me. It's always being like, I have to do this again. I have to take this time out. I leave for a week or two to go to Minnesota and he's here at home. First time I bar prepped, the last 2 weeks I got an Airbnb and I stayed away and I saw him like maybe 12 hours over 2 weeks. And I wasn't ready to do that again. So, failing the first time starting out there was a hard part. So I'm like, God, if I don't do this right, I'm going to fail it again. And then, you take it and, I was prepping the whole time and trying to stay within my little stoic realm. But it's, towards the end of it all, it's like, all right, like, am I ready? Do I know this? Like, can I pass this? Because, you're sitting there and, everyone's like, it's such a low pass rate. And most people there are repeaters, right? So you're like, okay, doing this, I'm seeing people I talked to last time, like this is the third or fourth time. I'm like, am I going to be doing this the third time? Like, am I preparing again for my next exam? Like, what's going on here? So yeah, it was really hard, especially too, right before. So unfortunately too, I saw the pass rate before the results came out. So I was thinking in my head, like right before the results came out, I saw the 30% pass rate. And I was like, 1 in 3 failed. Am I one of those 3? I'm sorry, 1 in 3 passed. Am I the 2 out of the 3 that failed? Like, I didn't know what it was. So, it's just, it was always kind of lingering there, but it's always pushing too, like, because it's always knowing that, hey, I could fail this again, but at the same time, kind of out of my control because I'm trying my best. So I can do what I can do. I can prep, I can study, and that's what I can objectively do to put myself in a better position. So, like, it just kind of came in waves, honestly, throughout the bar prep program. You're doing MBE questions, and it's like your scores aren't going up. You're like, am I doing this right? Am I not reading the material? Like, am I not getting the material? Like, I think I showed you, we started talking my torts torts MBEs were super low. And I'm like, am I not understanding negligence? Like, I don't know what's going on here. That was killer because I'm like, if I don't understand this in an MBE question, I can't do an essay. Like, that's where I was like, I can't transfer this over because they're relying. I'm like, I can't.
Thank you for that. And that is why, now that, we're talking about this for the first time, you and I, that's why I was like, you got to put the MBEs first so it can translate, right? If you go to the writing first or simultaneously, things get a little messed up, Like, do you see what I'm saying?
No,
like,
yeah. No,
like
totally.
what you said. So if you can't answer a negligence question, multiple choice question, you definitely can't, it's not a good idea to start writing about it.
Right, and that was it, though, because it's like, okay, that means I'm not understanding the rules. I'm missing, like, applying the elements. Like, I'm not doing, you have a minute and 30 seconds to do this, or a minute 36 seconds or something like that. And I'm like, and if I can't do this, to write an entire essay within an hour, I'm not going to do that because I have to name the rules. If I can't recognize the rules when they're given to me, because the MBEs, they kind of almost present the rule to you in the fact pattern that you have to apply, so it triggers it. I'm like, if I can't do that, I'm not going to issue spot in an essay. Like, there's just no way. It's not going to.
Right, and Brianna and I talked about that. Chor and I talked about that. Chor kind of coined it or whatever. It's like 5 to 10 MBEs stacked in this essay, and like each one is a rule, but it's also your IRA, right? So
no, yeah, it totally is.
One thing you said that I've been mentally bookmarked, but that I want to expound on is, and I think is very important. So that time you said you got the Airbnb and you only saw your son, a lot of pain right there, right? Like you can't see your boy that you love so much and you're sacrificing all this stuff. Did you do that the second time? How did you study the second time? Was it like a lot more chill?
You know what? It was in the sense that I was more kind of studying with how I am. My routine was very, I was up every day in the morning getting what I needed to do done. And then I would go to the library from 10 to 7 every day. So Monday through Friday, I was at the library from 10 to 7. And on Saturdays too, shorter hours, but I was there the hours it was open, and I was just studying as much as I could, doing MBE questions, reflecting on those. I mean, literally like for hours on end, just drilling. It was very, and there was some days like, I did take off, like my son's birthday was during that time, didn't study that day, but like otherwise though, I was just very like, okay, I'm not going to not be home. So I'm going to go to the library, come home, get out at 7. I'm going to see him for a couple hours, see my girlfriend for a couple hours. He's going to go to bed. And then I didn't hit what I wanted to hit. I'll put another hour or 2 in. So it was very like, there was a certain requirement I had to meet every day for myself. Good. And if that took me 6 hours, fine. If it took me 10, okay.
But it was like this goal, right? That you wanted to meet per day. I do remember you sent me this like calendar.
Yeah.
And I should let the listeners know, kind of give a clearer picture timeline wise. So a lot of people that I met, like Brianna, I met just after results, December or whatever. So we had a bigger head start. For you and I don't think we made contact until like mid-January. Yeah. So it was like 6 weeks or something like that. And I could tell, like, I've been kind of waiting to talk to you. I did the whole Jedi MBE thing with you. And when we check in every day after that, you were using your time. You really worked really hard and you got through because you were kind of behind everyone in that sense, right? Do you see what I'm saying?
No, and so you told me too, you're like, you got a little less time to work on this. I'm like, well, let's do it then.
Yeah, and you did it, man. And that was all you. Like, you really owned it. Like, I couldn't believe what I was seeing, you were like done. I think we had like a 2,000 pool to work with. Mm-hmm. Do you know when you were done the whole 2,000 pool? I think it was like 3 weeks or something.
Yeah, it was pretty fast. I burned through them pretty fast because I was like, because initially too, I had kind of messed it up a little bit where I was doing like a mix. Like, no, don't do it that way. I was like, oh, okay, cool. So I switched over to just doing this, the subjects as he told me. And yeah, so I burned through them pretty fast because like I was ready to get back to recycling them. I was ready to kind of like, let me start seeing. I want to see more patterns. Right? Yeah, I want to start seeing. I got to start seeing it. So I knew I had to burn through them.
I'll just talk about the new app, and I haven't even talked to you about it really into depth, but now I could tell you about it, get excited about it, and then the viewers and listeners, they can hear about it too, how it works and how you use the system and your whole group that I worked with and how I had you do the MBEs was like this research and development thing for this new app that's coming out. I'm submitting it to the App Store today, and I'm pretty sure they have Memorial Day off, which is tomorrow. So hopefully, it's live in the store by Tuesday. So everyone, if you could just hang on, I'm working working my nuts off this whole, this whole like 2 weeks or whatever. So the whole thing is when you were doing the MBEs that I had you and everyone else do was you got to work on your lowest first, right? Because it's like a suicide drill. I made this suicide drill video for everyone. Is like in PE or gym class, we used to have to run to one line, come back, run to the next line, come back, run to the next line, come back, and then for the long one, you only have to run once, right? For the last one. But that's going to be your strongest subject. So you want to do that last, right?
Right.
And so the power to the ground where you're running so much is where your weak subject is. So for you, torts, right? You're like the anomaly, by the way. Everyone, I could tell the viewers and listeners for sure, mostly everyone is really horrible at civil procedure, property, and contract. In civil procedure, worse, and then probably property and contracts is like a toss-up. But you were this anomaly where you were really good at civil procedure. And I remember I was telling somebody about you, and I was looking at your like stats, your numbers, and I started laughing like out loud. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, wait a second, his civil procedure is like, he's like really strong at that. So to get back to this whole thing is like, you want to put that to the back burner, if you will, or to the end for that last. You don't want to neglect it, but you don't want to spend that much time if you're naturally good at something. What'd you get first time in civil procedure?
92.1.
So over 9 times out of 10, get that. You're going to get it right. Why spend time working on it? Like there's no point. Not to say you blow it off, but just keep it to the end, much like the writing. Okay, so, and I say that with a smile on my face. But so this new app, thanks for letting me, and I got to get back to this other thing that we totally blew by again. That new app, how it works is, and I don't want to get too into the weeds of how it works, but it works on the same principle in that you work on your lowest stuff first. And when you work through the questions, you have to master a small set, right? And then once you master it, then you can move on to the next level. And the next level will include the lower level. So you're constantly keeping up, just like suicide drilling. You're still running on that first part of the gym floor, that first line. You keep on reinforcing it. And there was this other thing that I loved, which I know you got, was that there's this crazy thing that happens if you start really suicide drilling like this, is when you go back, they start turning into flashcards.
Right.
And how amazing is that, right? Because you're now using a flashcard, but it's an actual MBE. So you see the you see the MBE, and you look to the questions, and it works just like a question. And you see, okay, what rule are they testing? So it reminds you of the rule. Then you look up to the fact for a few words, just like a flashcard. You confirm it, get it right, move on.
Yeah.
And when you said that to me, that you said, I'm doing them just like flashcards now, just like you said, that made me so happy. And like, I don't know if you saw the twinkle in my eye or whatever, but you really got it. You really understood what I was trying to do,
Because yeah, and it starts to pop out too. Like you can't even, like, if you do enough of them, you can't avoid seeing it because it's just there. You're like, oh, okay, this is what it is. Oh, this is what it is. Like, oh, this is the rule. And the fat pattern too. And I think you pointed this out to me. They can only ask a question so many ways. Like
Right.
The question is the question. Like, I mean, you see the same kind of like outline. Party A, party B. Boom, here's the question. This is torts. Oh, okay, cool. But there's only so many elements and fact patterns they can use because they have to be objective. So if you start throwing in too many various elements, then you don't get these questions that are like that.
Right.
So they have to have a certain pattern to them.
And that's like the key. That's part of breaking the code, if you will, right?
Right.
The app sounds pretty sweet, right?
Oh yeah, no, definitely, because that's the one thing that I would have enjoyed is like it's mass. You had to recycle through everything to get to the questions, but having a separate area where it's like level 1, these designated questions. If you don't master these, you don't get to level 2. Versus the other ones, just like I didn't feel like I had that question down. Was it luck? You have to wait till it pops back up on the other two.
Right. And then there's a chance if you're going too slow that you'll forget because it was like a month ago or whatever. So that's so inefficient. And that's why I came up with this app, because I wanted to replicate what we were doing so that everyone could have it and everyone can pass, with this way. And so I asked you, I had this idea and I didn't really explain to you, but I think you trusted me. This was after bar exam, but post result. And you yourself, if anybody opens the app, 75 of the contracts questions is Brandon explaining to you how to get to the right answer. So that's very nice to know. Thank you, Brandon. And I haven't put you on the spot to ask you yet, but I hope you're going to help me build out the rest.
Oh yeah, definitely. I had friends, like I said, my friend that took it, and I told her, put emphasis on the MBE, and I didn't get a chance to introduce to her because she started super late. Like, I think I don't know how, she had like 3 weeks to prep and she passed it. So that was great for her. She's super smart. Though. I think she could have had like 2 days and she probably would have passed it.
Right.
But I told her, put some emphasis on the MBEs. And to your credit, she texted me, thank you so much. That was some of the best advice I could have gotten.
That's great.
So I was like, so people who you weren't even working with were seeing a benefit in just doing that. So that's the cool part.
Thanks,
so
Brandon.
yeah.
Thanks for saying that and letting me know that. It warms my heart. It really does. So what do you think of doing these kind of like all in kind of, how you got an Airbnb for 2 weeks and you set yourself up? See, so Brianna worked full time, Chor worked full time. And honestly, I think you could do this without investing so much that we as bar examinees sitting for the bar, repeating first time, whatever, do you think you need to like give up all this stuff, ensure that you pass the bar?
No, not at this point. I think it's just what it comes down to is having a plan in place, because I found that, like I said, I had to be like, all right, from 10 to 7, I'm here at this time. And before I took off from work and I was doing MBE questions before I took off time, I was like from 8:30 to 11:30, I'm just going to do MBE questions. And, I wasn't as comfortable then because I wanted more time, so it was harder for me, but it's just a matter of planning and time. And I think when I went to the Airbnb, when I did all that stuff, I was doing it on someone else's terms. I was doing it according to what, people were telling me I should do. And, that's one of the things I didn't like, though, is that I wasn't finding something that was helping me and guiding me in a way that I felt was good for me. Like, because there was like, everyone's like, do essays, memorize outlines. I'm like, okay, but I'm not really getting anything practical here. Like, for me, yeah, I could do an essay and self-grade it, but like, I think I did a great essay. What do the bar examiners think? Like, so it's like, yeah, that's great. I can write essays all day, but, am I really doing the right things? Am I really doing this? Sheltering yourself for 14 hours a day in an Airbnb was definitely counterproductive in hindsight, because I was secluded from the world. I wasn't getting support from family and friends. I literally just shut myself off from the world, and that wasn't helpful.
Right. So. It detrimental. And do you think that it added to your, I'm trying to say this in not a negative way, but do you think it kind of added more pain? Like it made the knife kind of broader or more jagged, if you will?
Oh, definitely.
Do you see what I'm saying? It's like you did all this stuff to pass and then you don't pass, and all that kind of is worse now. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, because like I said, I saw my son for like 12 hours probably over 2 weeks. And I'm like, did I sacrifice all that time with him, my girlfriend, my friends and family to fail? I'm like, okay, like, and money, like, because it wasn't cheap. Like, I was like, all right, now I'm in this hole. It didn't work, and now I don't have, like anything to show for it, and now I have to wait again to take the bar exam. And then that time frame from July to November is just horrible, because you don't know what's going to happen, and that's just a huge gap to be told, hey, by the way, you failed. Okay, cool.
Just to talk about go back to the app again, I wanted to tell you that I think you'll like, but you can't get to the essay drill area unless you finish all the MBEs. Like you unlock all the levels of the MBEs.
That's good though, because I didn't start looking at the essay drill app until after I had done so many MBEs. And that was nice because, like you said earlier, like I saw these essays with these rule statements that were nice, like clean rule statements. I was like, okay, I want to write it like that. That's a good rule statement.
But you knew it from the MBE, like you knew how it worked from the MBEs.
Yeah, and then I just saw someone writing. I'm like, oh, this is good. It's a good way of writing concisely. I'm like, that's a good one. Like, I know the rule. I might have not written it that way, but that way is a good way. I'll do that.
It's awesome the way this has all come together now.
Yeah.
And same thing with the PT. It's like, it's just a formula. I was telling Brianna, and it's just a way of doing it. And once you get that way, it's fine. You don't need to write a bazillion PT. And it is strangely enough, it's all related though. Like that way of thinking from the MBEs is applied everywhere else in the essays and
because the MBEs are they're mini IRACs. There's an issue. There's a rule statement, there's application or analysis, however you want to phrase it, and your answer is your conclusion on that based on those things.
Right.
So they're mini IRACs, and you have less time to do them. But if you know your rules, because you're doing them like flashcards, you see the issue in the call to question, boom, and you just drill them out. Rule, application, conclusion. There's my answer. And then I did it a little differently, but I know like you read the rules of the answers before, and for me, I had a little trouble adapting to that method. But it was good though, because what I started doing is like I saw right away, like doing it that way, there's 2 answers I could eliminate before I even went to the question itself. I'm like, I know those don't belong here. Like I'm like, this does not belong here based on the call. There's nothing that
right. There's no way these are 2. Yeah, right.
Like so, like it may be only 1, but I'm like, that's now 1/4 gone. It's like there's no way that belongs in this question at all. I could just tell. Yeah.
Right. Right. It's just such a good, and that is the Jedi way, right? Like it's kind of like, and so this app, you won't need me to teach you the Jedi way. You'll be able to, by working through these, because you're drilling, you'll develop your own Jedi skills in doing this, right? Because you're trying to get through this stuff faster. Your whole method and way is adjusting, relearning how to approach these questions time. And that is the way, your path to victory. Is there anything else that you found that helped you pass then this time, Brandon? Besides the schedule, like anything that we may have left out?
Yeah, so I'm a big like I said, I think I mentioned it earlier, I'm really into Stoic philosophy, and kind of like not self-help, but like just self-evolution, self-reflection type of thing. And so for me, like I think I even tried to post it on Facebook and share it with people, and I tell them like quotes and stuff because they're really meaningful. But looking at Stoic philosophy, it's more this idea of you kind of have to accept things as they are, and there's no such thing as a good or bad situation. It's only our opinions of them. Like I said, for me, and it's very hard to practice that, and because it's hard. Because like I said, I failed the bar, and I'm like, yeah, this is my opinion of the bar. I failed it. That's it. The bar doesn't care. It's objectively, that's a score. It's not a good or bad situation. It's my opinion of it. And so I had to say, okay, my opinion is I want to say this is a bad event in my life. And I'm like, this was a horrible thing for me. It set me back. I thought to myself, well, I tried. I did really try. I took this time, and this is all was hindsight after I went through my motions of being kind of like upset about it. I'm like, I did try. I can definitely say that there's no regrets in what I did for it. I put my best effort forth that day. And it wasn't enough, and that's okay. Like that was okay. It wasn't ideal, but it was okay, and I accepted it. Because I accepted it, I could move on from it. And that's another thing, is like you have to accept the position and move on to it from it, And that's where I'm like, okay, now maybe, and this is where like you came in, everything came in. I'm like, well, obviously using that course that I used wasn't the best one. So now I have to find something new. And then I found you. I was like, this is great. This is what I need. This is what I need to do. This method is for me. It was so, the thing about the way you taught it too, just, not to go off track, but what helped me, but is that while it's one method kind of model, it applies to everybody in the sense that you're working on the individual's unique weaknesses in those subjects. So like I said, mine was torts. So that may not be somebody else's, but someone else is going to work on contracts, or Civ Pro. So it adjusts to the person, it changes to the person. And so it's one method, but it's for each individual person, which is nice. So, and for me, like I said, kind of going back to Stoic philosophy, a lot of the time it's like we have to, one of the things that I really like from Viktor Frankl, and he was a psychiatrist, a Holocaust survivor, he said like the only thing we can really do is choose how we respond to things. And, the last of human freedom is our ability to choose our situation, our mindset in any situation. So it's like, all right, so here I am, I'm going to put my best effort forward. I'm going to study, there's a space between response and stimulus and response. It's your ability to choose that response. So every time I would get upset, I kind of reflect on those things. Like I reflect on what's within my control, not the grader's opinions, not the grader's answers. What I can control is that I'm doing these MBE questions and I'm learning the rules. I'm doing the flashcards. It's very try to be objective in that regard. Like I can control these things and the rest is out of my hands. I really can't do anything about it. If I wrote the essay the wrong way, they didn't like it, that's outside of my control. Right. But I can do the essay the way that I think is right. That's within my control. That's my ability. And and then going back to your Bardro essay, like what I did see, then I realized what's in my control is to see how people were writing these passing essays. Like it goes back to like this is like I said, one of the biggest things I struggled with was like an evidence was legal and logical, right? And just putting a nice rule statement down. I had trouble with like writing a concise one. And then, I did the bar essay app. I'm like, those are good rule statements. I'm going to steal those. Like, I'm going to take those. Like, those are, I knew the rule, but I couldn't write it this as well as I liked. But I saw the essays. I'm like, that's a good rule statement. And it's like, so now that's within my control. Those are the things that I could control. Was I couldn't control the way that I wrote it, like, because I was struggling with it, but I could control how I adjusted myself to that writing. So I went, oh, this is what a passing essay did. This is what a passing writer wrote. All right, so now my ability is to copy that. Like I said, right. And I just, that's what you do, and that's what I did, and it got me the results I wanted. I passed the bar. So
yeah, it works, and yeah, it's like mimicking what works, right? What success is. You want to, you look at what has worked, right? Through the app, and you find that underlying theme, and I was saying on episode 6 that some people are just really clever in the way they, even those rule statements, like you see some really genius stuff in there, like how they just so eloquently write it, but they're in and out. It's just so awesome.
Yeah, and it helps though, like, and then seeing someone else's work though, you're like, this is helpful. I'm like, this is helpful because this is a passing score, this is a passing essay. I may not do it like them because it may not be as clear and concise to them, but if I get to at least 70% of this kind of writing, I'm like, okay, that's good. Like, and then you rely on what you learned in the MBEs, because like I said before, there are many IRACs. So if you have that essay statement, it's just one long MBE question.
Right.
That's all it is.
One important thing is we have this mutual friend, and she asked me to do something more with it. Is she said, counting down the time, I think she said it's 9.5 weeks, the next bar, and it's just stressing her out. Now, what would you be doing? Because really, Brandon, you're like my go-to kind of, I've never seen you freak out, and you always say these super nice things. And I wouldn't say you're like indifferent to the world, like you're okay. And I've seen you a little nervous, but it was like a happy nervousness, like you were excited about taking the exam. And then getting back to, our friend with her, the way she's looking at it, and 9.5 weeks left, and she just feels like it's so much information and all the stress symptoms that we both know so well.
So the first thing I would say is that you earn this right. That's the most important thing to remember, is that everyone who's taking the bar, and this goes to her and to everyone, you earn the right to take it. Like, no one can take that away from you. And whether you passed it or failed it, you earn this right, and you have the right to take it again. That is, one of the things you should always hold dear to yourself, is that you did this. And whether in 5 years you're practicing law or not, after you pass it, or you may hate being a lawyer, you earned this right, and you did this, and this was the most amazing thing for yourself because you stuck something through. As far as 9 weeks, to go, it's what I would say is that just put your best effort forward. And it's so cliche, but it's, you can only control so much. You can control your study schedule. You can control how you do it. You can control, the breaks you take, and I advise breaks too. Like, you can control what you do during that time, and that means, what I mean by that is, like, you're putting a schedule down. Like, you're hitting not just a goal but a requirement. Like, for me, I think my goal minimum was try to do at least, a requirement was 150 a day MBEs, because some days were a little bit harder than others depending on the topic for me. I did struggle. Like, I would fall short where I wanted to be. So, but I would try to do, the requirement was 150, the goal was 200, and those are different things, because the requirements, like, I cannot stop doing it until I hit. There's no stopping my day. So it's having a plan and knowing where to be. The anxiety, and this is another thing too, and that comes from Stoic philosophy, is that a lot of the time too, we end up worrying about a situation twice. So it's like, oh, I gotta take the bar exam, and you're dwelling about, am I gonna fail it again? And it's like, okay, yeah, you could, but you're worrying about it. Then you still have to take it, and now you're worrying about it again. So you're suffering twice for the same thing.
Right.
Like, you're dealing with these situations, like, and that just applies in life in general. Like, our stresses about a situation are often worse than the actual situation itself, because what's the worst that's going to happen? You're going to fail, then you do it again.
Right.
That's the worst that happens. Like, and for everyone that's different. Like I said, for me, it was heartbreaking because I didn't want to take the time away from my son again. But you know what? I had to accept that I failed it. I was going to do it again. But how could I adjust the situation? How could I change it and make it more inclined for my life and myself? 9 weeks to go. There's nothing that can stop you from passing this bar. Listen, you can listen to Sani. Like, take the advice. Focus on the MBEs. That's another thing I would say, because I realize we have so much emphasis on the essays that we get lost in the MBEs, which count for half of our score. Like, that's half of our score. They're objective. They are right then and there. There's 4 answer choices, and that's it. We put so much effort on these essays that if you bomb the MBEs, now there's no chance, because you maybe maybe you didn't do as many MBEs as you could have. I did 4,100, over 4,000 MBE questions, just because I was like, I'm gonna like, and you said it. This is my main dish, and the essays are the side course. Like, that's all it was to me. Like, I believed in what you were saying 100%. So for me, the MBEs were important. You know, just schedule, take breaks. I went to the movies. That's what I did. I went to the movies and didn't think about the MBEs or the essay, the bar exam. There's got to be a healthy balance too.
That's why I think this new app is gonna like change everything. Is that it makes you don't need me to tell you where to focus. It's all right there. I've figured out a way to replicate this system. Anybody who takes the bar exam, they go with the app and what it's telling you to do. You should be fine.
Like, yeah, no, definitely. Like, honestly, like I said, like there's like, you know, I don't want to discourage anyone from doing what they're doing, but like, I don't like the big bar courses anymore because they try to do this one size fits all model, not looking at the individual. But it's like, if you're doing what the way the app was and what we did before, it's like I said, it's tailored to you. It's the person. Like, where do I fall short? That's what's gonna get help. You know, like I can't do torts, so I'm gonna do torts. Like, that's what I'm gonna do. And that and it's funny because like I told our mutual friend, I said torts was my worst subject. You know, and even in law school, it was like not my best subject.
It's funny, you know, just because I'm a nerd, that's everyone's like strongest subject. Torts. You are like the biggest anomaly. How you love Civ Pro and you're really good at it, but tort, the one that everyone loves, you are not that good at, you know?
And I'm not a big fan of it, if I'm being honest. So like, but I know for a fact, and I believe this, you know, that there was a torts question on this last bar. That was my strongest essay. When I wrote that essay, I felt better than I wrote any other essay. Like, I have never felt as good as when I finished that one. Because I think it was on the second part of the day, and I remember like I'd finished my PT and there was a PR one which I hated. But you know, but I just remember writing that torts essay. I'm like, this is like the best thing I've ever done, because I had done so many MBE questions and I had the rules just came to me like nothing, like, you know, negligence, whatever it was, you know, I wrote it out. Like, it just was so much better, and it felt good because, like I said, when I initially had looked at my score from the first bar, I was like, man, I suck at that. I was like, that was not good. Like, that was not good. But then, you know, writing the essay, I'm like, no, this is fine. I can do this. There's nothing more to this. I just gotta remember what I did, and you know, obviously I missed stuff because everyone misses stuff. But like I said, I believe that was my best essay I've ever written on a bar exam, and that felt good.
That's awesome. And your weakest subject, you know?
Right, exactly. And that's what felt so good about it.
And to what I think, in my humble opinion, what happened there for the viewers is it was Brandon's weakest, but because he was drilling it so much, he made the biggest leaps and bounds in terms of learning. You're learning so much, tend to appreciate and respect subject, right? Like, so so getting back in jujitsu, when someone kicks your butt, you're like, dang, you know, like you have this, I don't want to go off. I started thinking of Stockholm syndrome and stuff, but you have this respect and this kind of like love for awesome thing, right? And what you're doing. So I think, and I'll ask you if you think there's some truth to it, that is why that exam was your strongest and why you probably loved writing it.
No, and I really did though, because I even think I finished like the landlord. I think actually I remember now it was on the first day, the first day of the first session, and I remember going back to it after I did the landlord tenant one, and I went back and added more to it because I was like, I'm gonna keep going on this one. Like I literally had like 10 minutes. I was like, I'm gonna go add more to it, and I did, and it was great. You know, and it's true though. Like jujitsu, like it's kind of one of those things where in jujitsu you have to, when you train, there's positions that you're not good at. Like there's things called like the other persons that sit, the ones that like sit, the guard players. Like I'm not a guard player. Like I'm actually what's called a passer or a top player. Like, you know, I like to play the top game, but I've been playing guard because it's my weak position. Because I'm gonna be there one day, but someone's gonna put me there one day, and I have to accept it. I have to move on from it, and I have to do it. Like that's a weak position. So I'm in that position. What do I do? And like that's kind of like what torts was. Like I'm in a weak position, so I have to improve here. I have to keep doing it. You know, I play guard, and my guard's gotten better. Still not that great, but it's gotten better. But that's it, though. It's just you're playing the game. Like you have to keep going in that weak area, or else you're never gonna get. Because you said you can drill. I could have drilled Civ Pro all day, but I knew Civ Pro. Like it wasn't gonna help me.
And the other thing is too, it feels good, right? Because you're like getting all this right, and there's no pain. You know, you're not getting your butt kicked, and you feel confident. Like you're like, man, can't wait for the exam because I'm gonna nail these Civ Pro questions. But
Right.
That's not your problem. That's not what's gonna.
Right, and it's funny because I think like the only Civ Pro thing we saw in the essay was like a last question on the evidence, and it was so simple. It was a simple little like question, but I remember looking at it and laughing though because I had done so many MBEs. I'm like, oh, this is easy. Like,
Right.
it was just those simple little things you start to pick them up. But yeah, jujitsu in that sense is a lot like that. Like I said, you have to accept it and go from there. You know, that's the bar.
I'm
The
smiling
bar.
because we made this whole jujitsu analogy. It's kind of funny. What do you want to tell people about results anxiety? And was there any difference or change from the first or second time that you tried to do? Or
No, for me the waiting was the same thing. I think towards the end this time I got a little anxious because I knew they had the grades already, so it's like that. I'm like, man, it was Monday. I was like, I know they had the grades. They could just put them out now. It'd be fine. Like that was more of what I felt. But for me, they were turned in. There was nothing I could do. The score, I submitted my essays when I left this, both times. There's nothing I could do. So I just enjoyed life for what it was. I couldn't change it. My essays were what they were. My MBs what they were. And, I just spent some time with my family and enjoyed everything I could in between. Because for me, it was like I said, I wasn't trying to suffer twice. I wasn't trying to worry about it the entire time I was waiting. And then to find out I failed again, I was going to suffer. But if I had stressed about it this time, I passed. So I would have suffered for no reason. Because luckily I passed, which is great, but if I had sat there and stressed the whole time, I'm worrying about failing, thinking I failed, and I passed. Well, I didn't have to suffer through all that. I could have just enjoyed life. So I really, really just tried to enjoy everything I had at the time because there was so much, like I said, I could have failed, and then I would have had to go from there. But I had my son, I had my girlfriend, I had some family events we did, and that was great. Like, there was no need for me to stress about it because I couldn't change it. So, why kill myself over it?
I'm in 2000% agreement with you. And I was talking about that with Brianna in the last episode. People want to talk about the exam afterwards and they want to watch debriefs about what you should have put, and there's really no point because there's no magical way you're going to reach into the ExamSoft system or their system and get your paper and write what, it's just going to make you feel bad and it's going to waste your time that you could be doing other things in life, like spending time with your children or your family or, or anything, working out.
I just tried not to think about, avoid it. It was just life was happening and the exam was happening on its own terms. So my life was going to happen on my terms.
Right.
And that's what I said. It's important because and not to be morbid, but I could have also something could have happened. I got in a really bad accident and my car got totaled during that time. And if I had died from that, I went to watch a movie with my girlfriend that night. But if something had happened where I passed away, I wouldn't have passed away stressing about the bar. I would have passed away after having had a good night with my girlfriend. And that's what's important to me. Because those days, like I said, it's just life is happening. We can't focus on too much at once because we can't change it.
So just to kind of recap everything you've talked about in that sense is it's kind of like a focus on what you can control, worrying about what you can control and what is out of your control. So it's really a waste of time worrying about something you can't control, right?
Right. It's exactly it because you can't change it.
Did you have any negative family members or loved ones?
No, I was lucky. I have a very supportive family and I've been lucky in that regard. So no, I can't say I did. My family, they talked to me. It's funny because the first time I failed, like I said, I was just like, okay, I failed. What do you do? My family was laughing because everyone was asking everybody, is he okay? And they're like, yeah, he's fine. It's like, he's totally fine. Not that he doesn't care, but he's just going to start again, going to start prepping again. Like that's his goal. He's going to take it again.
Thing where he said, no matter how bad it gets, you got to keep moving. You can't let it debilitate you, keep you down, because then that's a real tragedy, right?
Because it's funny, man. Like you said that my mom actually framed a Rocky thing for me from that last movie. It's like, it's not how hard you can get hit. It's how hard you can get hit, get knocked down, and get back up. It's because that's what life is. Life is going to hit you as hard as it can. You got to keep going. It's true. You just got to keep going. In working with a lot of people, they go to they get on the internet, they start kind of commiserating with other bar takers, and they start this whole stress fest, where we're talking about electronic music festivals. Imagine that, but just stress. Everyone's stressing each other out and it's just out of control, I would say definitely avoid that. Because you Google things and people study tips. If you get in a forum or find another forum that's not positive, get off of it. You're not going to find any study habits there that are going to help you or any mnemonics. People like to study little things, just get off of it. it's not going to help you. Because the reality is too, is that those are just opinions. And like I said, like we can have opinions about situations, but those situations are not good or bad. They're just situations. So, and that's people's opinions about it. Like, oh, I'm going to, you know, like the pass rate is 30%. Yeah, that's low, but you could be one of those 30% that passes. Or you may not be, and that's okay too, but it's just, you got to focus on what you can do. And by focusing on everybody else is saying and doing, you're taking away from what you have in your control. Because that's not in your control. Like, and that's a big thing, is it's what's in your control. It's your ability to study and take the test, and that's everything else. Because even like reality is, even our own bodies are not in control. Like if I lost my ability to walk, I can't control that, but I can control how I respond to it. And so like with the bar, like I can't control what everyone else is doing, but I can control how I'm studying for the bar. You know, like, oh, that person has a negative idea about the bar. That's fine. They're allowed to have that, but that's taken away from me. So I can't take away from me. I got to put my best foot forward, and I got to say, I'm going to look at the situation as the fact that I've earned the right to, and in a positive way. Like, it's my ability, my right to take this bar exam. It's going to suck because it's just, the bar exam is stressful. There's just stress. It's just part of the game. But, you know, you can say, okay, I'm stressed out today. Take an hour break. Let's go for a walk. You know, it's about what you can do in the situations. And people, I had a friend I reached out to, and I asked her, like, hey, you know, can you give me some advice? And she's like, well, you have to study. I'm like, yeah, I know. I failed it though. I tried that. Could you give me some advice? And she was just being super negative. So I was like, okay, cool. I gotta go. You take care. I'm gonna go do what I need to do. Like, and that was someone who had passed it.
Is there anything you want to say to anyone out there repeating, or, you know, graduation was this month, so
all people graduating, congratulations. That's definitely the first one. And to everyone, repeaters, you know, first time takers, people who are delaying taking to study, because people are doing that too. You earn this right, and that's the main thing. You earn this right. You know, we put a lot of emphasis on passing the bar, and we put a lot of emphasis on that determines who we are, and it really doesn't. Everyone here, everyone who's taking the bar, everyone who, you know, tried to go to law school, who maybe didn't finish, everyone who's done all these things, you are doing more than other people have. You're taking steps and risks that people wouldn't take in life. So that in of itself is something to be proud of, because not everyone can do it. You know, not everyone, and I mean not everyone can do it, is they can't take the risk. And like I am very like open about the fact that I failed it the first time, because I'm like, I'm open and honest with myself, but I want people to know I failed it, because I'm like, failed it, I can pass it, then you can pass it too. Because none of us are. There are some people who are definitely smarter, but I don't view myself as one of those people that's smarter than other people, or they're smarter than me, but I'm gonna outwork. So that's what you gotta do, is you just gotta outwork it. You gotta outwork the test, because the test is it's a bar. It's meant to prevent you from getting into the field. I genuinely believe the bar examiners, like, not to be negative, but I think they're trying to prevent people from getting the field, because the cut score is so high that there's so much about that already. But, you know, just remember, you earn this right, and keep pushing, and don't stop. Don't ever stop. If you want to be an attorney, keep pushing. If this is what you have a passion for, and maybe you want to be an attorney to do something else, but you know that it'll help you in that career field, do it. You know, do it and push and push and push, because the only one's going to stop you is you. Yeah, they can fail you. So what? Then you just get it again. They failed you. That means someone didn't like the way you write, but maybe the next grader will like you better, or maybe you'll get better.
If you look at I looked very quickly, because I don't like to dwell on like how like difficult things are, but if you look very quickly, and if you failed, there's some kind of percentile sheet on the State Bar website. And so if you just go straight up percentiles for the pass rate, if you passed, you're in 70th percentile, which is very high already, right? But it said something like above 1500, 15, like low 15, it was like 90 something percentile, which is, it's a very low kind of tolerance. Just a few things can go wrong and you're down already. So that might sound disheartening, but think about it this way, is kind of like, you may have failed this time just by a couple little screwy things, that with the experience from that time, coupled with studying again and sharpening your test taking skills, you'll do it this next time. So that's what I have to kind of say, is
this test is conquerable, and anyone can do it. I don't think that it's something that only select few should be able to pass. I think everyone can do it. I firmly believe that. I just think, you know, it's just got to be tenacity and grit, and be willing to fail. And I mean, like, just be willing to, and even in bar prep, be willing to fail. Be, like I said, like, if you're you're doing MBEs and you're not where you want to be, don't switch over to the ones you're passing. Do the bad ones. Be willing to fail, because that's okay. I mean, fail all the time. I mean, but it's just the ability to keep going on after that. That's what makes it. That's what is progress.
Right.
That's where you get the progress.
And even if you suck at writing, don't go to the writing. Do the MBEs, and in this weird way, it'll help your writing.
100%. 100%.
Brandon, I really want to thank you for, being you and listening, being open to listening to what I had to say and my explanation of how you were going to pass this, and just being an all-around positive guy and sharing with everyone how to, deal with stress, negative people, and just everything. So thank you.
No, thank you. And like I said, Tanya, thank you for everything, man. I fundamentally and truly believe that your help throughout the entire process was like a big part of why I passed, because like I said, working on the MBs helped my essays get better, and I don't know that I would have done that if it wasn't for you. So like, I thank you for everything, man. It's can't express the words. So thank you.